What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Purple People Podcast. Sorry, we are fashionably late as usual. My computer is giving me a fit. My name's Kyle Smith. We are here at episode 516, Murphs So Good, and I put this in the description. This will be the most loaded Purple People Podcast episode ever. So much has happened in the last week, good and bad, and we're going to cover all of it. And by we, I mean Adam Carlson. How are you, sir? Oh,
Well, I don't know if don't.
perfect.
Adam must have been having some technical difficulties right there, but I am with you, and you are right. Look at the amount of notes. Oh, my screen's a little blurred right there. I have almost a full page worth of notes of stuff that happened this week. There is honestly like 5 main topics that we could like all discuss and all break down into like single episodes, but that's not how we do it. We are going to discuss everything here at once, and we got some people with us here in the chat already. Purple and gold for days with the tick tock. They're in the chat.
We are not on the TikToks.
I should shout
Welcome
out
back,
to those
Adam.
guys. I've made very good friends with them recently. We're doing the Twitter space talks. I appreciate all of their interaction, letting me get my thoughts out on their space. Obviously, they're welcome here for their thoughts on our space. It's just a fun. I like the positive side of Vikings Twitter, and that's what's led me here. So I appreciate you guys. Yeah, I'm typing them in our private chat, and I'll keep defaulting to you guys till I send it. There's 12, 13, 15 bullets on here. So, yeah. I'm going to let you guys get rolling, though. Let's start this off on the somber, sad note that the Vikings legend Bud Grant did pass away a few days ago at the age of 95, I believe. And it was sad, football stuff aside, he was just an interesting character with kind of that hard nose. Kind of felt like everybody's Minnesota dad in a way, doing the yard sale and the quirky comments and fun stuff that he would say over the years after he had gotten older. He's such a fun personality, and he kind of embodied everything that was Minnesota, and obviously the best coach this team has ever had. Led him to
His
4
path
Super Bowls.
to being an NFL coach was just amazing. I mean, being a triple sport athlete in high school, going on to play in both the NFL and the NBA, winning a championship in the NBA, going to the CFL, play as a player and becomes a coach, and wins championships there. Goes to the NFL, plays for the Eagles for a few years. I mean, his whole path is just amazing. It shows how, if you put in time and work, you can do pretty much anything. And in between all that, he did serve in the military, too, which is amazing.
Very well respected in the Vikings community by everyone. I don't think that there's anyone I've ever heard related to the Vikings that played for the team, works for the team, talking about. I've never heard one negative thing said about Bud Grant. And the most recent memory I have of him being a fairly new fan is walking out in 2015. It's negative something outside. He's in a polo shirt, just being a badass.
Which that is
what
so
younger
awesome.
fans will remember.
Uh-huh.
Of course,
I mean, hey, he was
it was
long
so classic Bud at that point.
Right, and he was long retired by the time any of us had started watching the Vikings, so we really, we're not going to have the memories of him coaching or any of that stuff like that. But I tell you what, man, him walking out in that polo shirt that is an iconic Minnesota moment for sure.
It's funny you say long retired because he stuck with that organization almost through his whole life. He had an office in Winter Park, and they gave him his own office when they built the new building. They had everything for him.
Right, that was part of that last contract that he signed, got him some lifetime privileges with the Vikings, and one of them was having an office with a window in the Vikings facilities, and because I was listening to lots of stories where people talking about Bud Grant, and there was a time where they tried to move him. Like, they tried to move his office to an interior office, and he went home and got his lifetime contract, and brought it back and said, "No, I get an office with a window." And they were like, "Okay, we will not fight you on this. You have it in your contract, sir." I love stuff like that. I love the garage sale. Just everything about Bud Grant was he's just a fun part of this team's history to talk about.
And you hear those people from the Purple People Eater days just talk about how great
so
he
well
was.
respected. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm typing up the notes. We got a ton of stuff to go over, but we wanted to lead off because most of you that listen to the show know this is a weekly show. We don't do breaking news most of the time, unless it's some major free agent signing or something. We'll jump on and do an emergency show. But
there were like 4 of those this week.
Right. It really was. There was so much for us to talk about, but letting the free agency period roll. And I like that we've kind of stuck with Wednesdays as of late, because officially, maybe 2.5 hours ago, the new league year started. So we were poised to hopefully get news of more people coming and going. And, people were signed, people were
Instead,
released.
it's been a really quiet day.
It has been. And apparently that means the Vikings are cap compliant to some degree. So in the coming days, I'm sure we'll have more news, but it's
they have
crazy.
done some work. That's for sure. To get this roster ready for the new year, they've been putting in some time here.
Yeah,
and we know there's a few announcements coming on the way as well.
Mm-hmm.
Putting in all the money and stuff for some of these guys, but we'll go down the list. But yeah, starting it off, shout out Bud Grant. We love you. It's sad. We know this is part of life, but Viking legend forever. And he's the best coach this team has ever had until he's not, which it's going to be hard to beat. But condolences to his family. And
I had the opportunity to meet him twice. Both times he was fantastic. He loves this organization, loves the fans, loves everything to do with it. The fact that someone at his age, I believe when I went to go see him, I think he was sitting with his daughter. And she was helping him along with a lot of things, because at his age, it's not easy to deal with, a big line of fans trying to get things done. He looked at my picture and he said, I don't know if I've ever seen this picture from this angle. And he signed it, and because I saw some of the other pictures that were like mine, but they weren't exactly like mine. And I was like, what's going on here?
I like that.
But yeah, it was a picture of him standing next to Fran Tarkenton on the sideline, and he loved it.
I love how down to earth he is. Like, the whole Bud Grant garage sale thing turned into such a fun, festive thing that happened there for a couple years. And it's like, can you guys imagine like a current NFL coach as decorated as Bud Grant? Like when Bill Belichick retires, like the Bill Belichick garage sale, like that's just unheard of. That's not gonna happen. Like that's such a cool thing that he did.
Yeah, to let people know where he lives, first of all, is pretty wild.
Yeah.
Well, we're going down the line here. Let's talk about the major stuff. We won't get into the signings until later. We'll make that the main topic. But between the last episode and now, we kind of called it. We knew this was coming. Adam Thielen was released from the team. So far, most of the fans are pretty good about it. I've seen a couple of them saying, why would you do that? But it's kind of an agreement. It's time. He does have a workout or a walkthrough or an interview or something, whatever you want to call it, with Carolina, which is ironic because that's what I'm close to. But that'll definitely be weird to see him in that jersey if that happens. But yeah, so far he will get signed somewhere else. I'm sure it'll be a slow process for him. We wish him well. He is such a fun player, such a fun story. And now that it actually happened, the Vikings saved money. You guys' thoughts on Adam Thielen's career, and where do you think he might go?
One of my favorite Minnesota Vikings of all time. It's sad to see him go. I understand that the business side of it, as cliched as that is, but that catches up to all these players. The contract was not matching the production on the field. I still definitely think that Adam Thielen can contribute to another team, another franchise out there, not in the role that he was at with the Vikings, but in a smaller, reduced role. Adam Thielen can still go out there. He'll still catch touchdowns. He'll still catch first downs when you need him. That's why I wish there would have been a way for him to stick around in Minnesota, but it just wasn't quite going to work out. I want to see him take his time. No offense to Carolina, but let him find a good fit. Let him ring chase at the end of his career. You know that?
Yeah, with the Chiefs just losing one of their weapons, I mean, that's not a terrible fit there.
Right.
Yeah, the weapon that Adam's talking about is Juju Smith-Schuster. Former Steelers and now former Chiefs wide receiver signs with the New England Patriots, so he gives them a little bit of help. They are pretty dry on offensive weapons, so good for him. I saw a picture that I thought was really interesting. He goes from Mike Tomlin to Andy Reid to Bill Belichick, so that's just a poor, terrible thing for you, having those terrible coaches to play for.
Not too shabby.
It makes Patrick Peterson's decision look a little even more weird. Patrick Peterson says he wants to chase a ring, then he signs with the Steelers?
Yeah, who at best are the third worst team in that division. I think we all know Cincinnati runs it. Then it's a toss-up between the Ravens and the Steelers. I would put the edge slightly to the Ravens just because Lamar Jackson technically is still there. The Browns are no slouch. I mean, yeah, that's an odd signing, but that's a good another piece of info and news that happened. I think it was yesterday or the day before. Patrick Peterson signs with the Steelers.
Good little segue there. Like you said, Patrick Peterson no longer with the team. That you can definitely tell with the moves they did on either releasing players or Patrick Peterson was a free agent, and so we didn't have to release you, but we didn't have to call you back. We didn't have to invite you over for breakfast. I still don't really understand the
Cameron Dantzler release. That one still baffles me a little bit.
I guess with Cam Dantzler, if you don't think he has any shot to make the roster, that's why you do it. That's the only thing I can come to.
I had him penciled in as a starter.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say this. We have nothing but love for Cameron Dantzler, but if he's your starter, I'm a little worried about that, especially with the depth you're at and obviously additions through free agency or the draft. But me personally, I don't know. I don't see enough from him to warrant a starting shot on the team. I know I'm a little bit down on him versus most fans, but
I didn't see better options on the roster at that time.
Right, but I think this kind of clears the way for the news we'll talk about in a little bit, because there was a big free agent corner the Vikings signed. We'll talk about in a little bit, but
I kind of thought that you would at least keep him around.
Yeah,
I thought rotational depth guy. You're at least bringing him through training camp and preseason, in my mind, but the Vikings just cut ties right now.
I believe he was a second or third round pick, right?
Right. I believe he got signed from Washington. This is also one of those cases where second or third round pick, but also not our second or third round pick. This is a Spielman guy, right?
Absolutely.
So that we're moving on, folks.
And this is what, like, the fourth defensive coordinator that Dantzler would have worked for?
Yeah. NFL sucks, but sorry.
Also, with
so who knows if he fits what the Vikings even want to do now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no slouch to him. It's no slight against him to say, like, oh man, we think you're a bad player. To Adam's point, like, not us, we're not even arguing about it. I just don't see him as a starter for the team. I'm with Kyle, and I know if you thought he was starting, obviously you thought he would be on the team. I thought he'd be on the team, but I just didn't see him being a starting quality corner just yet. Getting into that Jalen Reagor territory where it's like, I know you weren't in the first round, but you're coming in at year 4? Like, it's either, shit or get off the pot kind of deal. But I would have liked to have seen him had more of a shot. Maybe he'll get that in Washington. I know everyone was super nice to him on Twitter and wished him well. We wish him well, but
of course,
up until year 4 situations, the Vikings made a tough decision not to give Garrett Bradbury a 5th-year option at $15 million. Instead, they bring him back for 3 years for $15 million. Works out pretty well.
For the value, that's incredible. Would I like an upgraded center? Absolutely. But for that value, that's what I want to see happen with Dalvin Cook. 100%. And I know Dalvin's better at his position than Garrett is at his, but that was pretty cool.
I thought that Garrett Bradbury played himself into this contract last year. Like, he played well for the Vikings. I know a lot of Vikings fans wanted that center out of Minnesota. I think that this signing kind of signals that they will not be going in that direction. But Garrett Bradbury was fine. Could you do better? You probably could. Would you have done better in this specific free agent class? No, probably not. And you would have maybe had to pay more than what you did. So I'm fine with this signing.
Bradbury was not great last year, but he was probably the best he's ever been.
Yeah.
Yes. Very well said. Very well said. Speaking of, we have so much news to talk about here.
Yeah.
Former linebacker Eric Kendricks, he was one of the first to go. We talked about it a little bit in the last show, but since then he has gone back to LA and he is with the Los Angeles Chargers now. I am so rooting for his success. Happy for him. Happy that he got to go home. He was already spotted at some game. I'm not sure what sport, but some pro game, and he was, chugging a beer. And it said newly acquired linebacker for the Chargers. So it was kind of weird to read, but he's getting another shot. I think he still has a lot left to prove. And let's be honest, not too many people shined in the Ed Donatel defense anyways. So maybe it was just a fluke down year for him because every other year before that's been pretty good.
Mm-hmm. So he's going to an offense that just does not really know what's going on at all, and they're losing their dynamic running back most likely. So then they get two wide receivers who have a ton of talent but can't stay healthy.
Right.
And a quarterback who's I've had this discussion with Smith a few times. I do think that he's overrated, Justin Herbert.
I feel bad for the kid. I think he gets more of the blame and stuff. I see the talent that's there. I really, learning what I do on, passing in the wind, hearing information from my brother, who's a humongous Charger fan. I know their offensive coordinator was garbage. And I know last year he was throwing to trash cans. Literally, his wide receiver 5 and 4 were his 1 and 2 because the aforementioned stuff that Adam said. His wide receivers can't stay healthy. So he's trying out there, but I think it's a competitive team. I think it's I've been to the stadium. It's a state-of-the-art facility. It's a fun town. I think you'll have fun there.
But do you think they can be competitive in their division, let alone the conference?
I think so, because I don't think the Raiders or the Broncos are much of a threat. I mean, obviously, the Chiefs are probably going to win it, but they snuck in last year as a wild card. I don't see a reason why they can't do it again. Jimmy Garoppolo to the Raiders doesn't scare me,
With no running game, you think they probably could, or do you think they're going to find a way to?
They'll have someone in at running back. They're probably
Dalvin Cook. We'll send them Dalvin Cook.
I wish. What did you guys miss? Well, we're going over all of the transactions. I said in the preview for this show, this is probably going to be the most loaded information show we've ever had. We let off with the passing of Bud Grant. Rest in peace.
Yeah, we had a nice little tribute for Bud at the beginning.
But to catch you guys up, Charlotte, I'll run down the list very fast. Adam Thielen is released. Patrick Peterson to the Steelers. Eric Kendricks to the Chargers. We talked about just recently Garrett Bradbury. Cameron Dantzler is gone. He's with the Commanders now. Mm-hmm. And we're just kind of going through all the lists here. And before I talk about our acquisitions, we still got to talk about people who have been picked up elsewhere, and someone asked for a release. Dalvin Tomlinson, kind of a player I didn't want to go anywhere, and I thought with him extending everything to March 15th, we would have a shot to negotiate, but he signed with the Cleveland Browns. So there's going to be some
I don't want to be a jerk to him, but boy, the middle of the Vikings defense was just holes for running games. I did not see his impact as much as I thought I was going to.
I wish I could say, oh man, that's a huge loss for the Vikings, but Adam, you said it. It's brutal, but it's honest.
Yeah.
They weren't that good. He wasn't that good. I don't know whether or not it was the system he was in or what, but I'm not really going to miss Dalvin Tomlinson in Minnesota.
I don't want to do the blanket statement thing, but last year's defense was just so bad all around. I can't fully blame a single player.
But now, we've seen bright spots. We can give bright spots to people, but we can't give dark spots to people. I mean, we kind of have to. Yeah. If you're going to say Duke Shelley was a bright spot in the defense, then there were definitely some darker spots that you got to at least kind of mention.
And, and whether it's 3-4 or 4-3 or super aggressive or Ed Donatel's shell defense, when you're a big guy in the middle of the field and your job is to stop the run and you don't stop the run, that's kind of on you. Like, I know everything else around you, it all plays into it, but, dude, you got to stop the guy in front of you.
Well, I think my point to make is I think everyone as a whole was kind of underwhelming last year, as a whole group.
100%.
And that's kind of where I'm talking. I can't really point to just one guy who was the worst, but I can say after week 9, both of the edge rushers were kind of like.
I'm not going to say every defender was bad because they weren't.
No, I'm not saying that either. I'm like I said, everyone was pretty underwhelming. The only person I saw consistently throughout the year that I still liked, and he's still not 100% of what he used to be, was Patrick Peterson. He had some gaps. Mm-hmm. But After
I
week
thought Harrison
9,
Smith had a good season. I thought Duke Shelley had a good season. I liked some of the rotational players they put in. Like Brian Asamoah looked like he knew what he was doing with his combination of speed and athleticism.
I'll pound the table for him.
You guys just made me think of something that made me mad again. Son of a bitch. I was watching The Voyage, and it was during the middle of the season. I think, it started out in Washington. Then they beat the Bills with that crazy game. And then that stupid game at home where the referee got in the way of Cameron Bynum. That guy needs to be fined and kicked straight in the nuts. Get out of the way, idiot.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Mad. That was a terrible throw. I think that was a Washington game. Yeah, it was terrible. Paul Allen was like, are you kidding me? But tying this back in with the D-line and moving off the Dalvin Tomlinson news, Darius Smith did ask for a release from this team, which kind of puts them in a bad spot as a team because when he shows his hand, that brings he brought his own value down against the team, which really annoys me. I don't know why he wants to be gone. You went 13-4. He loves the facility. He loves the fans, but
he knows there's more money to be made elsewhere. He's trying to. He wants to force the Vikings' hand so that he's released and can pick his own destination instead of, you tell them privately and then you get traded to Houston. No one wants to play for Houston. Or you go to Arizona. No one wants to play for that dumpster fire.
You gotta pay for your fucking meals.
Yeah, now you gotta pay for your own lunch.
Oh my God.
So he's trying to force the Vikings' hand by just releasing him, because if you're any team out there and maybe you're interested in Za'Darius Smith, well, you're not going to trade for him. Not now.
Za'Darius looked amazing at the beginning of the season last year. He was among the league leaders in sacks, and he was
first half of the year. He was a wrecking ball.
Yeah.
Then he had that injury, and he just was not the same.
Yeah.
Right.
But the Vikings went out and they did get an edge rusher. They got Marcus Davenport, who used to play for the Saints. If you remember back in the day, this is when the Saints really wanted him. They made a trade with the Packers and gave up a lot of picks to get him.
Yeah, let's jump into that. Marcus Davenport, defensive end from New Orleans. Don't look up his stats. You will be very mad. I'll show you the formula in a second, but he gets a 1-year, $13 million deal, which kind of to me says, okay, Za'Darius, we've got you. Because I don't think they're going to keep all three of these players.
Pro Football Focus absolutely loved Davenport last year, even though his sack numbers were low. They felt he got a lot of pressures, but just never really finally got there.
Well, pressure helps. That's where we can start. I think that was the one word we begged for last year as a Vikings fan base for the defense is like, can you rush the passer at all? So it sounds like he can get pretty damn close, and I like that. I like this as a 1-year prove it. And here's the point I was going to make. What I like and what we've seen so far, just looking in through the window, is Questy is getting younger on the defense, and he's doing a lot of certain age players on 1-2-year deals, whatever. I love that formula because not only does it work for now, but what the overlying theme is next year, we're going to have a ton of money to do whatever we need to do. Right now, he's kind of strapped, but I honestly think he's doing one of the best jobs he can do with kind of the poop sandwich he was handed from the other regime.
Right now, you're trying to find the foundational pieces for your 2024-2025 seasons when you're going to have more cap space, more flexibility. So we're getting younger. We're adding these pieces. You're signing like this guy on a 1-year contract where, hey, if it doesn't work out, you're not tied to him long term now. So you can move. Hey, it didn't work out. We're going to break up. We're going to move on. If it does, if you do hit, he's young. You can sign him for a 5-year contract. And you're in that window. You're creating your own window with players that you believe in, that are young, that you can build around and win with. I like what the team is trying to do here.
I think there's a lot to say with these players who are willing to bet on themselves with 1-year deals to prove that they can be what they are.
Great point.
Because you'll see a lot of players that don't have that mindset of, I'm going to go out there and dominate, that want the longer term deals right now with the more guaranteed money, and are like, give me the big long contracts with guaranteed money. And then you got the younger guys that are like, give me a 1-year deal. I'll take a little bit less just to prove that I've got it, and then I'll get that big deal.
Well, I'm reading an article here from Sports Illustrated. He's 6'6", 265. He's got excellent PFF grades. Adam talked about throughout his career. He did have a couple of injury issues, but he should be an impact player for this team, assuming that he stays healthy. So I like that. He was drafted 14th overall in 2018. I'm just ready.
And we
I'm
don't
ready to
know 100% what the Vikings are going to do with Zadarius Smith. They might call him on his bluff. They might say, we've got you for one more year under contract. We'll keep you.
But now it's the point where they don't need him.
Right.
They don't, but I don't know. They might just call him on his bluff and see what he's willing to do, how long they can make him sweat it out.
And I've been seeing a lot more draft analysts talking about how the talent might drop in this draft, where a big defensive lineman or a edge rusher might drop pretty deep in this draft. So I'm kind of excited about that.
To close out the point for Davenport, he's never had a PFF grade below 71.8. Highest was 88.8 in 2021, which is unreal. So, yeah, he should be an impact player for the Vikings. I like this deal. I like the number. I like the length of it. I love everything about it. And obviously, when we get news about Zadarius Smith, we'll talk about it in the most recent episode after. But as of right now, he has asked for a release, but nothing has happened yet.
I need to record that audio clip of Smith saying, "I like the length of it."
I think he sold his house too.
Oh yeah.
Zadarius Smith.
Oh man.
Yeah. Well, he's like all in. That's why I'm like, I tell him you're under contract.
I want to know what the biggest reason. If it's money, yeah, it is what it is. It'll be a short conversation. But
he wanted a revenge tour against the Packers. He got his 1-year revenge tour against Green Bay, and he knows that even though he wasn't healthy, he can make more money elsewhere. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him for wanting to do that. More power to him.
Well, we're right at about half an hour into the show, and let's talk about this, because when I got this news, I was super excited. I know you guys were too, and Arizona Vikings Twitter was pissed. The Vikings have signed cornerback Byron Murphy to a 2-year, $22 million deal. I mean, that's cornerback number one right there for us. Mm-hmm. And he had a back issue last year, but
24, 25?
Let's take it, man.
Yeah, 25.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Yep, Ian Rappaport reported a 2-year deal worth roughly $22 million from him and Tom Pelissero.
So there's one starter.
Pumped right there. That's great.
I mean, you're trading out Patrick Peterson. He's what, 32, 33? Somewhere in there, right? For his age?
Not sure.
I don't remember, but anyway, you're trading out Patrick Peterson at the end of his career. And you're getting a young player entering the prime of his career that you can build around. Mm-hmm. I'll take it, and I like Patrick Peterson. I like him a lot, but I will take this move. This is a solid move for the Vikings.
I'd like to throw these fun stats out here to let you know how good this guy is, and this is from Sports Illustrated to give them their credit. Last season, Byron Murphy landed on an injury reserve with a back injury that kept him out after Week 10. Despite battling his health issues, he showed he was very capable of hanging with some of the league's best receivers as cornerback one. Here are 4 stats for you. Devontae Adams, 2 receptions, 11 yards, and a touchdown. Ooh. Cooper Kupp, 4 receptions for 44 yards. DJ Moore, 6 receptions, 50 yards. A.J. Brown, 3 receptions for 32 yards.
Not too shabby.
Pretty solid.
And
pretty solid.
Like you said, it's worth noting you're playing for a dumpster fire of an organization. Terrible coaching. You got to pay for your own lunch in the NFL. Come on. This is ridiculous.
Quarterback's more worried about Madden and Call of Duty.
You're right. So come on down. We got a much nicer facility here in Minnesota. We have coaches who actually coach.
I don't even know if Kirk Cousins knows what Call of Duty is.
He doesn't.
We can talk about Aaron Rodgers. That was fun today. He was on Pat McAfee today talking about what he wants to do. He had a darkness retreat, which I find, honestly,
fascinating.
Yeah, I find it interesting. It's something out of the blue to talk about. But Aaron Rodgers did a nice little getaway to get his mental health together and kind of think about what he wants to do. And he said on Pat McAfee today, I was 90% sure going into that retreat that I was going to retire. But he came out feeling like he wanted more and had something left to prove. And he said, I listened to a little bit of it before I got some lunch. And he said, I wanted to really get back into working out. He's like, obviously I stay fit, but I really wanted to test my body. He's like, this is not a show where I come out and say, here's my decision. He's like, this has kind of already been in place. We're just waiting on the Packers to get what they want out of it.
Yeah, from what I gathered reading between the lines a little bit, it sounds like the Packers are obviously trying to get as much as possible out of Aaron Rodgers. The two sides are just trying to come together on whatever that figure is.
But what do you think of some of this, like Aaron Rodgers receivers offensive wish lists?
I mean, if I'm him, I would probably do the same thing. I love the meme that's
try to
going
get your
around
buddies jobs.
Yeah, pretty much. And he likes those guys. It's just funny because in Green Bay, he was always like, I need weapons. I wish they would have drafted a receiver, blah, blah, blah. And then the exact same weapons that Green Bay gave him, which he kind of turned some, weeds into roses.
He turned his nose up at it a little bit.
What's that?
He turned his nose up a little bit at that receiving group.
He did. Although in his career, I won't call any of the guys like Adams or Jordy Nelson like duds because they're obviously great receivers. But I think Rodgers, up until this point in his career, maybe he's taken one slight step back. He can turn a weed into a rose if he really wants to. It's the commitment that it would be scary for any team. But if any team in the league was a quarterback away from being substantial, and I'll leave it at that word, substantial, because it's very open.
It'd be the Vikings.
It would be
Kirk
the Jets.
Cousins, I'm kidding.
it would be the Jets. I mean, Zach Wilson getting benched for a guy named Mike White that we didn't even know was a person. I mean,
yeah.
I know Mike White. I think he's in Miami, right?
Yep, he moved on to Miami, stayed in that division. But I love that coach. I love their cornerback. They've got a great young receiver. Assuming that they can bring back their running back that I think's a free agent, they'll have a good, nice little offensive pieces there. But
we've seen Sauce wear the cheese hat.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Amazing.
He's so good.
Yeah, there's your Aaron Rodgers news. He is all but a New York Jet right now, which is.
But it is strange because Aaron Rodgers owns so much and invested so much in that area around Green Bay. I mean, he owns parts of other sports teams there in Wisconsin, and it's just strange to see him essentially say he's moving on.
Well, here's the weird thing, and I won't say that I feel bad for him because it's hard being, the sarcastic person that I am saying I feel bad for millionaires because, yeah, you're talented, you've earned all your money, I get it, but I do feel for him in that sense. He said on Pat McAfee today, he's like, I just wish the Packers would be direct with me about stuff. He goes, if you told me, hey, we're going to move on from you, you're obviously going to retire a Packer, you're going into our Ring of Honor, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I could have done that. He goes, that was never the case. He goes, they'll make reports to people, but they haven't said anything to me. It's all been kind of like around the bush through people. Is like, just tell me directly. He goes, that's fine. He goes, I know I'm getting older, but
do you guys think Aaron Rodgers didn't retire because he wouldn't be the headline guy retiring this year and just wanted more attention? That he didn't want to still be in Tom Brady's shadow?
I don't think he could ever overtake Tom Brady's shadow either way. I honestly, and I mean this, I don't think he gives a singular shit about anything. He can do whatever he wants. He's got his Hall of Fame spot booked, and this is all literally like, do I want to do this or not? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think he would do it for that specific reason, but it's just funny because, I got to look at the flip side. It
seems like it's some kind of an ego thing for him, whether it's just getting attention or, getting media love or whatever that he's trying to do at this moment, because this seems unnecessarily complicated.
I won't battle with you on that. I do agree. I do see that point. I think it's cool. And I look at what he does and the way he does it, right? He's got an agreement with Pat McAfee. He'll go on the show when they agree when he can come on and they have the schedule or whatever. He's not doing this for everybody. He's doing it through a friend that he trusts. And it sucks for Adam Schefter, but he left him high and dry, and Adam Schefter
that was
told
awesome.
Everybody about it. Trying to get information out of him. It's like, yeah, lose my number. Not this. Not nice try. Like, I don't blame him. I can't imagine the stuff we don't know about. People getting his number and stuff and being like, hey, can I get this? Or what about that? It's like, dude, leave me alone. Just let me do what I want to do.
Hey, Harrison Smith, what's your contract situation like?
Oh.
Chris Thomason. I texted Sally Spice, if you guys know her in Vikings Twitter world. She's one of the Queen Vikings of Twitter land, and I sent that on our Instagram story. I was like, that is the tweet to beat in 2023 right there. So far, that's at the top, and it's not coming down.
I really feel like Harrison Smith took a screenshot of that and sent it to Mike Zimmer and was just like, look, I got Tomlinson back again. And they had a laugh about that.
I hope so. Well, if there's one player that we know that Zimmer loved, it would be Harry. That'd be fun. I'd love to know about that. Yeah, that rounds up the biggest news. We have a couple of other things to go down the list.
There's more to get. There's more to go.
How excited are you guys that they got? I've been pumped to wonder who cornerback is going to be for this team because it's been dry. And by the way, they still haven't re-signed Duke Shelley. Get your shit together, Vikings.
Duke Shelley, I believe that he will be back. I still think you probably need to draft one. I don't know where in the draft, but at some point you're taking one. Shit, you still need camp bodies.
Yeah. I know a lot of Vikings fans are kind of down on the idea of bringing back Jordan Hicks on a restructured deal, but I like keeping some continuity at linebacker, and I think although he's not as athletic as other linebackers in the league might be in that situation, he's a thumper, and he keeps a pretty good idea of keeping his back between the goal and the player with the ball, so I have no problem bringing him back.
I'd be...
I'm down with it.
Me.
It's about
especially if you compare him with a young athletic linebacker in that, in that defense, that 4-3.
I like it because you need a veteran presence there. You don't want just some random beside Brian Asamoah. You got to have somebody. I will say what I said on the Vikings.
Some random.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who the hell? I mean, unless he's going to be like a first-round pick or something, that might work. But what I do like, and what I said on the Twitter space is, all right, he wasn't good in coverage. Neither was Kendricks last year. He was fucking great against the run. He was wonderful against the run. So he's got attributes there. And right now I'm looking on over the cap. He's base salary $4.45 million.
Yeah.
Total cap number 6.5. I mean, that's great money and that's great value there. So, and if you'll notice. And this is not my idea. I've kept this from Vikings Twitter and everywhere else. The three guys that Kwesi brought in, he kept. Ross Blacklock, Jordan Hicks, and who else am I forgetting? Chris Reed. Is that his guy? There's somebody else I'm thinking. I forgot him there. But he brought three guys in, and he kept them all. So I really like that he's sticking to his guns on that as well. But, yeah, Jordan Hicks is going to stay. I don't hate that at all.
Looks like we're going to get some continuity, too, along the specialists.
That's next on the list. Greg Joseph and Andrew DePaula re-signed. I love that. The thick boy punter is, going into his second year? He's not going anywhere. So, Greg Joseph, Andrew DePaula. I should say this. We have to give him the title is there. All-pro long snapper, Andrew DePaula.
Now, Greg Joseph, he may have missed some extra points, but as far as field goals go, he hit some game winners, and there were some real good moments along with that, and I don't think his field goal kicking was bad really whatsoever. It's just those extra points that he missed got a little out of hand.
A little bit.
I don't know if they're going to bring in some competition for him with an undrafted free agent or something like that. I'd still like to see that. But as far as just bringing him into, and I know I've said this on the show a lot, to keep that floor high is what I want.
That's a good way to put it. It's great point, Adam. Yeah, for all the things, I was going to say it's crazy from how it was 2 to 3 years ago where we were getting pissed because we were losing by a field goal or whatever. Man, he sure won some games for us last year. If he not turned that ship right around and be like, no, I'm still good. You're welcome for the walk-off Giants and Saints and
I like it. I like keeping the continuity together. I've heard Ryan Longwell speak about how important it is to have that nucleus of players together who can build that trust and work together. The Vikings.
We even saw how much the Vikings struggled when they didn't have a quality holder, which is something a lot of fans never think about.
Right. Or long snapper. Like when you don't have a good long snapper, it suddenly shows. And you don't ever want to think
Allen
about
had to come in as long snapper?
Oh my God, yes.
That was kind of awesome. But long snapper is a position you don't ever want to have to think about.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? Like, you get a guy who can do it, and you keep him for 10 fucking years because they don't do anything else for the team, and, that's it. I don't ever want to have to think about long snapper.
Okay, these numbers aren't going to blow you away, but I'm just clicking over while you guys were talking. The dead money right now for this team is gross. Now it's not nearly like the New Orleans Saints.
They're eating their share of a shit sandwich.
They're going to pay for a minimum of 4 starters somewhere else to play for somebody else, and $27 million. Adam Thielen, Tomlinson, Kendricks, Peterson, Jesse Davis, Kellen Mond, Chaz Surratt, Wyatt Davis, Janarius Robinson.
They're
Cam
paying
Dantzler,
for Kellen Mond still?
and Amir Smith-Marset.
Until he finishes his rookie deal, yeah.
Wow.
Now, the first 3 I mentioned, Thielen, Tomlinson, and Kendricks, are all in the $1 million range. Everyone from Patrick Peterson below is $750,000 down, but that's $27 million in dead money.
Those legacy contracts were wild.
They're bad. they're not good.
That's why you're eating it now. You're coming to terms with it. You're getting your books clear so that you can make a bigger push in 2024. And that doesn't mean that you're not trying to be competitive now. Of course, they're going to try to win games right now, but you're not going to surpass your 13 wins by bringing back Thielen and bringing back Kendricks and bringing back Patrick Peterson. Like, we did that, and the 13 wins we got last year was as good as you're going to get. And so you got to rip it off, and it's going to be tough for this year, salary cap wise, but you're going to be in a better place in the following seasons.
It's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
I think what they've done so far, we haven't even gotten to the other signing that I forgot to mention, but
there's a tight end in there too.
Yeah. I think what they're doing, and we said this earlier, but they're getting younger, which is a dire need. You can't keep running it back. And if I'm going to be the outside looking in and be the smart-ass guy against the Vikings in an argument, I would say run it back for what? A wild card loss? A divisional round appearance?
You're right.
So here's we tried that experiment for like 5 years.
Here is what the Vikings usually do. We're always sold this philosophy that we are 1 year away from winning a Super Bowl, and all that we need is like a Jalen Ramsey in free agency, and we're going to bring everyone else back, and we'll add like a Jalen Ramsey, and we're going to make a push for the Super Bowl. What we've never really seen the Vikings do, at least not since I've been a fan and have been paying attention to it, we've never seen the Vikings willingly hit the reset button themselves. Usually what we do is we wait until the wheels fall off the wagon and the wagon starts on fire and holy shit, we have to rebuild before we actually do it. And so I'm interested to see what this looks like with the Vikings. They're not going to admit it, but we've kind of hit that reset button a little bit, and we're going to eat the contract of Thielen and Kendricks, and we're going to move on from Peterson, and we're going to say, okay, maybe we're not going to win this year, but we're setting ourselves up so that we can be really aggressive in 24 and 25, and we can go after a lot of free agents, and we're going to have a lot of young players that we believe in to build around. And that, to me, that's more fun than, well, we brought everyone back and we didn't quite make the wild card, and now what?
Or one piece away, all we need now is Herschel Walker.
Yeah, we've done that. You're right, Adam. We've done that.
Well, to your point, let me echo that with a player and just talk about kind of what it is, too. Dalvin Cook has been shopped by the Vikings, and we don't know if he's going to stay or go. We have no clue on that, no word.
That running back market, sorry to interrupt, but right now, what's the other one? Travis Etienne? Was he the running back? Etienne. Yeah, you've got him out there. You've got Zeke Elliott out there.
Zeke Elliott was cut by the Cowboys today.
And Austin Eckler wants a trade.
Right.
He does.
So that's enough of a market that you're not getting the value that you want for Cook. You're probably bringing him back. Anyway, continue with your point.
No, it's a fun point,
yeah.
You can see once, because for the first start of this, when everything really started, last week, Vikings Twitter was like, oh my God, what's Kwesi doing? Blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, a week later, you let the dust settle, pick up some guys, get rid of some bad contracts. You're like, I think this guy kind of knows what he's doing. Of course, he did all along, but the general consensus is, especially after that Byron Murphy acquisition, everyone's like, oh my gosh, maybe he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Maybe
he's the general manager of the Vikings for a reason.
Vikings Twitter was ready to burn villages down after that tight end signing, though.
Yeah, they picked up the tight end from Baltimore. His name is Josh Oliver, number 1 rated pass blocking tight end, which I think is an underrated quality. We all appreciate that here.
I low-key love how he pairs with TJ Hawkinson. You have an excellent pass catching tight end, and you're going to pair him with like Pro Football Focus's number 2 ranked blocking tight end. Yeah.
If you lose Thielen, why not run more 2 tight end sets?
Right.
Yeah, and we're not,
right.
Like, don't look up his receiving stats because you'll definitely cry. But
he's not going to do that.
But he doesn't have to. That's kind of the point.
I mean, never really been asked to do that either, so we don't know.
Let's be real. Let's talk about that too. In Baltimore, where the quarterback is dynamic, yes, he's not super known for his passing, but guess who takes up all of the pass catches there at tight end? Mark freaking Andrews. That guy's never going to catch a pass. So,
do you guys know that we happen to have a pretty good pass-catching threat at wide receiver for the Minnesota Vikings?
His name was my point today. I was talking to my best friend in the world. Shout out to Greg. He's a New England guy. He loves the Pats. And we've gone back and forth, and he always tries to be the voice of reason when I get too spirited about anything. And he's like, you let your number 2 offensive weapon get on the market? He's like, I don't think that's smart. You just let your wide receiver go. And I'm like, yeah, but our wide receiver is old. Like, he's a shell of what he used to be.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm good with running back by committee at this point because I can get that kind of production from other players in total for less than the one individual player costs themselves. So I don't know. And we don't know whether Alexander Madison's going to stay or not. He's on the market as well. I think he's a free agent. So we'll see.
Yeah, the rumbling is that Minnesota actually wants to bring Madison back to be their running back 1 and then ship off Dalvin Cook, which a lot of Vikings Twitter had been talking about, but we have gone on saying that we are not 100% sure that Alexander Madison is ready to be a number 1 in any running back group. I personally would still like to see that multi-headed beast at running back that can have that variation of a power back to go with some speedy, shifty backs.
Well, to your point, exactly that, Adam. So when we think of Dalvin Cook and Adrian Peterson, we're thinking of 20 touches a game, 25 touches a game, right?
Right.
If Alexander Madison is the running back number 1 for the Vikings, why can't it just be 11 for him and 8 for the other guy and 5 for another guy? It all evens out, And let's be real. Kevin O'Connell, Kirk Cousins, and Justin Jefferson, this team's not a run-first team anymore. We saw that last year. They're just not. So if the value's not there to pay someone that much that's not going to get that role, what does the role dictate? That's my question and kind of my point.
Can you imagine, though, with like guys like Kenny and Chandler, if they can get them the ball in open space, that
they're so
speed
fast
and just dynamic ability that they would have the ability to just pick up a crazy amount of yardage if you could actually pull off those plays and bring in guys like a blocking tight end. Man, that's already adding a little bit more excitement to that idea.
Well, to your point, and I am a personal fan of Ty Chandler. I'm a Tar Heel fan through and through. That dude balled his ass off in North Carolina, and that's why he was taken when he was. He's not your premier, guy coming out like I think his name's Bijan Robinson's probably gonna be the one this year, the first back taken. He's not a Henry, he's not a Zeke from back before, but he's fast, man, and he's a good weapon. But they've been so overshadowed by Dalvin Cook being the player that he was and worth it. But when you pay a guy like Dalvin Cook that kind of money too, he kind of has to be on the field. So with what we're all talking about, hopefully the Vikings shifting towards is more opportunities for different dynamic sets and styles of running back, which I want to see because I think it'd be a great change of pace.
There's a reason the new GM came in and took a running back as high as he did. I was surprised at the draft when that happened, but it did sort of put a little bit of that writing on the wall that there would be some changes.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. Well, we'll keep you updated, everyone, when we find out.
Minnesota definitely did not need a running back at that.
Oh, I think Adam must have froze up on us there. One of the points that I wanted to make, and I don't remember, did we mention that Nick Mullins is back as our backup quarterback?
I'm going through all those at the moment. Adam, I put you back in. So the rest of the smaller signings, here we go. We'll get your comment up, Wes, and we'll talk about these. Kenny Wilkes is back, which is cool. Very cool. Had a little bit of injury history, but I like him. Cairo Tonga is re-signed. I mentioned before, Ross Blacklock, a Quessy guy, is there. Jordan Hicks, as we mentioned, restructured. Garrett Bradbury resigns for cheap. Nick Mullins, backup quarterback, is back again. And backup tackle Blake Brandell re-signed again.
They did a little bit of cap magic with Kirk Cousins.
That's what I wanted to end on right there. That's a good topic.
Right. I don't know if you can break it down better than I can, or Adam, maybe you can.
I know exactly
who not can. Cut Kirk Cousins and sign Matt Ryan. That did not happen.
Let's read this comment. We'll talk about Kirk. Kyle West, couldn't agree with you more. How we keep spinning our wheels and keeping everyone and making a big sign and trying to get over the hump never works, and then we find ourselves screwed. I think Quessy is onto something. I'm 1,000,000% with you, Wes. Right. I think we all are in agreement there. And let's reiterate for the 50 millionth time, we have no disrespect towards any of the legacy Vikings that just got released. If there are more in the future, even if it's a 1-year rental, we appreciate guys like Zadarius Smith. But I don't think that formula that Spielman had was the best one to use.
It's also Quessy. It's a very forward-thinking thing that he's doing right now. Where, I'm not saying that there will never be a time that you're going to make a splash in free agency and sign a veteran like a Patrick Peterson to bring onto your roster. But I really like the way that he's signing these younger players to these 1, 2, or 3-year contracts to where you're not tied down long-term to any of these big deals. It gives you the flexibility to move in and out because, hey, we don't know how long Brian Flores is going to be our defensive coordinator. Brian Flores might be able to make it work with these guys, and then he might be gone in 2 or 3 seasons.
Tops. 2 years tops, he's out of here.
2 years tops, he's gone. The next guy who comes in, he might want his own group of guys. And guess what? We don't have big contracts held over from this current group that might not fit with the next coordinator. It's forward-thinking stuff. We haven't seen the team do this in forever. I like it. I like what they're trying to do here.
I second that 100%.
Yeah.
It's better to be ahead of the 8 ball than behind it. And like I said today to my buddy Greg, ironically enough, being a Patriots fan himself, you have to do the Bill Belichick thing and get rid of these players a year early. If they have a good shining year, whatever, that's fine. A body will be a body as a starter for whatever. But overall, don't hang on to these players because of the nostalgia. You know what I mean?
You brought up a fun point. So if we're going to do the Bill Belichick thing, would you trade the 13-win season we had last year? That was a lot of fun. We won a lot of games. There was a lot of entertainment that came out of that. Are you going to trade that to get rid of players like Adam Thielen last year, where you probably could have got some draft capital out of him? So, as a fan, what would you have rather had? Do you want that 13-win season where, hey, we tried with that group of veterans, or last year would have sucked, but we would have been sitting better right now with picks from some of these players?
I think there's a lot to be said for a new head coach having success in his first year, as well as a new GM, so that winning season, I think, did a lot more for this franchise than people think.
I agree, Adam. That was actually really close to what I was going to say, too, is that for them being able to prove that they can win and what they're going to do works is important as well.
But we also got to see that system and the way they wanted to set things up was flawed. Right. And now in that first year, we saw the flaw was definitely on the defense. And they're doing what they can to try to fix that by getting younger and bringing in a hopefully new scheme and a new play caller. So hopefully we'll see some improvement there, and the team can take a little bit more of the form that they wanted it to when they first came in.
Here's what I'll answer that, and I'm going to be salty and ignorant and snobby. Had we not lost to the damn Giants and damn Daniel Jones, I would 100% say yes. No, I hate that 13 wins ultimately lost at the end to Daniel Jones and the below mid quarterback that he is. But I see what you're saying. You're saying.
So the off-season armchair GM that's sitting here right now is going to say, man, we should have traded some of those guys last year, blah, 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 blah. But deep down, as the Vikings fan wearing the hat, I know that's a bunch of bullshit because, hey, winning games in the NFL is hard, and we said it all last season. Enjoy those 13 wins because they don't come around too often. So I know what all the smart moves and all the Bill Belichick and this, that, and the other thing are. I think I'm going to keep that 13-win season on the books and do what we're doing right now. And
to me, there's a lot of nostalgia already with that 13-win season because
yeah.
I watched a lot of those games with my nephew, so that meant a lot to me. Is
right
that we made that our thing, kind of, and I thought that was amazing.
Well, here's the only thing.
By
the way, Wes,
history.
Your jacket needs to be gold, dude. You gotta get yourself a gold jacket.
I don't have a gold one. Maybe I'll get a gold blazer. Maybe I'll get a purple one.
Yeah, we'll find you a purple blazer.
You guys find me a purple one. I'll wear it.
Here's what I'll say. The only thing that would have, so you can have your cake and eat it too. I just wish the Vikings had more than 5 draft picks right now. That's literally.
I know.
That's the only thing. And I said it on the Twitter space. I said it with Purple and Gold for Days on their show. I fully expect if nothing happens with a Dalvin Cook trade, a Zadarius Smith trade, something like that, I fully expect this team to move back in the draft from 23. I fully expect.
We're gonna do our live draft show. I am sitting here right now. I'm telling you guys that there's like a 95% chance in my mind that we trade back entirely out of the first round and do not pick on that first day. It's not happening.
If a player with good enough value is there, I think he will draft that individual. But
yeah.
I mean, at some point you got to look into the value of a trade. And one thing that we've definitely seen is that the Vikings GM is not afraid to make some deals.
I think he likes trading more than Rick likes trading.
Well, here, let's talk about this, and we'll end it with that and some other NFL news that we didn't have to cover, but I will. Kirk Cousins' new base salary is $10 million, prorated bonus of $250,000 after that 10. Guaranteed salary, $10 million. The cap number this year is only $20,250,000. Now, does that mean that Kirk Cousins took a paycheck? Absolutely not. Kind of rolling it forward a little bit like the Saints did with Drew Brees. But this gives us more flexibility for the cap this year. This does not mean he's getting an extension. I do think it may lean more towards that with this kind of thing. But ultimately, they pushed some money around, and the accountants were very busy typing and doing what accountants do. And this helps the team. So that's in a nutshell.
From what I've read, and I could be wrong because I will not pretend to understand how the NFL salary cap works, but the void money that they pushed forward on Kirk,
because there's 2 void years, right?
There's 2 void years, but if they were to release him, trade him, whatever, those all push forward onto a single season, so you're not paying him multiple years if he's no longer on the team. Now, don't quote me 100% on that. I don't know, but if that's how that works, whatever. I don't know.
No, I don't believe any actual years got added to the contract. So at the moment, it looks like Kirk will be around for 2023 and 2024, and then Minnesota might be in the market to try to find a new quarterback at that point.
So when Aaron Rodgers gets tired of the Jets,
he can fulfill his Favre legacy.
Yeah, the prophecy has been fulfilled.
Realistic Randy posted that on Twitter today, and I about peed my pants. He said, "It is written," and it was Aaron Rodgers in an away Vikings uniform, and it was the weirdest thing I have ever seen Viking-related in my life. I was like, it doesn't even look right. It doesn't look right.
I don't have this whole thing. I get that, the career in Green Bay has been similar for Favre and Rodgers, but Rodgers never started his career with the Falcons or anything like that. So what is this?
Yeah, but when you think of Brett Favre, I don't think anybody goes on the technical side like you might, Adam. It's all Green Bay and Minnesota. They forget, he played in New York.
Well, people forget he played for the Jets too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they often forget that. I've talked with a bunch of my friends about it. They're like, well, we wish he was a Viking longer because he was a Packer forever. I was like, you forget he was a Jet and a Falcon. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hey, people forget that he was doing pretty good with the Jets until he tore his rotator cuff.
I'm going to tell you right now, I know that season way more than I ever should because that is before I claimed Viking fandom. And before he tore his arm apart, they were 8-3. and they were well on their way to winning that division.
And nobody talks about that.
He finished the year with a broken arm, pretty much, torn arm, and he had 22 touchdowns and 22 picks. They started out 8-3 and finished 9-7, so it was pretty bad.
While we're talking about other quarterbacks, let's talk about Taylor Heineke, who's going to be in a battle with Desmond Ridder there down in Atlanta.
Former Viking Taylor Heineke, Mr. Next Door. I love that dude so much. He to say that his story about getting the call from Washington and then giving Tom Brady his hardest game in the playoffs, not he specifically, but quarterbacking the team that gave him the hardest time in the playoffs. I respect the hell out of that dude, and I know he's made money now, and I'm happy that he's got the bag. And if you got to beat Desmond Ridder, I mean, got a pretty good shot to start down there.
And the thing is that if he ends up being a backup, he doesn't seem to mind.
Yeah.
He's got the best job ever. Well, speaking of other NFL news, we have to talk about this because it's in relation in the neighborhood to the Vikings. The Chicago Bears have made quite the stir this offseason.
They had money to spend, and they spent it.
They
let David Montgomery walk, and he signed with the Lions.
David Montgomery left them.
Did he really?
To Detroit. He did.
Shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah. The teams around us in the division are getting better. So Vikings gotta make sure they know what the hell they're doing.
To me, that's a big decrease for the Lions. I think that's a huge downgrade for them. To go from Williams to Montgomery, that's, to me, a major downgrade.
I can see that point. I'll even match it and say that's fair. I don't know that Chicago does much of anything well, so maybe he sucked because that team was trash.
I know he was really good at Iowa State when I watched him play in college.
He had a flash in his first or second year that was really good, but since then it's been pretty quiet.
When he was literally the only player on the Bears offense.
I don't know if you guys follow Williams. He talks about like anime and Pokemon and all this kind of wild stuff. He's so much fun.
He had the best interview. Or was it his intro or whatever on there when they played the Packers? I don't remember what it was. It was that Packer game where they shut them out of the playoffs. But yeah, Jamal Williams is a character. But back to the Chicago Bears. They acquired Carolina Panther receiver DJ Moore. He will now be the wide receiver 1 in Chicago. He pairs nicely with Chase Claypool.
Thought you had convinced him to come to Minnesota.
I tried, dude. I was very close. He landed a couple states south or a state south. Wrong team, but he went to the NFC North, which is weird. Chicago packaged him and what else? They got the 9th overall pick. They got a bunch of stuff. They gave Carolina the 1st overall pick, which they had previously held. So it was funny. My buddy James, shout out to 18 Visions and Burn Halo. We always talk about it. He's a huge Bears fan, and he texted me the thing from draft day. He's like, I want David goddamn Putney just because I feel like it. And he's like, I want DJ Moore just because I feel like it. And I was like, that's kind of cool. You know, you go get a player you want. Carolina was prepared, reports on Twitter, don't know if it's true, was prepared to give a 2025 first round as well. So they were willing to give up the house. They believe in one of these quarterbacks, but the Bears got some good picks, got DJ Moore.
What if they grab like that defensive end or something?
No, they wouldn't do that. It just depends on what quarterback they get. I feel like they're leaning CJ Stroud. I think he's the best overall, but they could be going for Cam 2.0 and Anthony Richardson, which I think would be a huge mistake. But
2 firsts, 2 seconds, and a player, I think, is still a small fortune. It's a small amount to pay for the number 1 overall.
Well, that too, and to your point, Adam, a lot of people saying the Bears fleeced Carolina. I don't think they fleeced them. I think if that quarterback works out, I think that's a relatively small tag, like you're saying, because.
Okay, imagine if they draft a quarterback that works out and then Justin Fields sucks. It's really going to look like a bad trade.
5 times in his career, Justin Fields has thrown for 200 yards. 5 times.
Also today, some Bears account on Twitter said the king of the NFC North, and he had his big rain jacket on during the game. I was like, that king is 1-8 versus the NFC North. I understand supporting your guy, but let's not hand out the award before the race has happened.
You win more than 3 games first?
Right.
Can we do that?
It's
Can
weird.
we try that? Fucking Joe Webb out there at quarterback. My God, guys, calm down.
So they did sign a couple of other players. I know they got Tremaine Edmonds. That was a big splash. They got a linebacker. They've signed a couple more players. But if you go on the timeline, just go to Bears.com and go to their acquisitions. You'll see all the players they picked up. They are spending their money. So they are making moves.
Not investing a good amount in the offensive line yet.
Which probably should.
Big deal. kind of a big deal. Yeah. But they're trying. They're making the attempt. They're getting a weapon for Justin Fields, and they've tried to replace. I won't say they've shored up because I do think their linebacker they let go to Baltimore was better than Tremaine Edmonds. But that was certainly a player I was hoping the Vikings would take a look at for linebacker. But they've been making moves. So the NFC North is making quite a stir in one way or another for the upcoming draft and free agency. So I wanted to round that out and let it be known there's been some wild stuff happening. Yeah, you guys mentioned earlier Zeke Elliott's no longer a Cowboy. I mean,
that's crazy.
It's weird. He's been there forever.
Jerry Jones
was on the wall there for sure. But
Jerry Jones using Resigning. Like,
he's
what?
About a year or two too late, but
still
letting a bunch of their starters walk.
Philadelphia released Darius Slay. Come to Minnesota. We love you. We need you. That would be awesome. But yeah, we'll keep you guys updated. I think we're about done with the show. We'll let you know where Adam Thielen ends up. We'll let you know the Darius Smith and Dalvin Cook news, should there be any. We'll let you know Harrison Smith's status. We'll let you know when it comes around. But so far, I mean, we've nonstop just regurgitated all this stuff. We barely got through everything on the list. So pretty interesting week for the Vikings.
Lots of stuff.
Oh yes,
a lot of stuff. A lot of old faces going to new places, and
hey, we still have news on Harrison Smith that's going to hit at some point. He's not going to play under the cap number that he's currently at.
Right. Yeah, we're expecting news on both Smiths.
Yeah,
one of these days very soon.
If there is a blockbuster player, we may do an emergency thing, but I don't know if that's going to be necessary. But we'll keep you posted. Like I said before, me personally, I like these Wednesday shows.
I like your lights. I didn't know you could change the color of your background light.
Oh, dude, check this out.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
like $20 on Amazon. Best stuff. It's funny. We finally did this. We sprung forward last weekend, and now it's it's dark. It's lighter or longer, and now we've been on the show so long at sunset. Now it's starting to get dark in here.
Now you're talking to a black lab or something.
Oh, that'd be funny. The baked potato over here, holding the floor down, making sure it doesn't go anywhere. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Shout out to Charlotte, West, Purple and Gold for days. We appreciate everybody that's watched. I know we've kind of taken over just trying to run through all this information, but the free agency's here. It's officially the new league year today. It's March 15th. We will keep you updated going forward, and we're just excited. I think this general manager is doing some cool, like you said, Kyle, to take your quote, some forward-thinking and progressive things with this team, and I'm very excited for what the future holds, especially the immediate future. And the draft is only like 40-some days away, 45.
Yeah,
it's inching closer.
Let's go. It's going to fly by.
Closer as WrestleMania.
There we go.
Brock Lesnar versus Omos. I bet you can't wait.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that pairing. That's going to be interesting.
That's going to be 4 F5s and a 3 count. And that's it. That's all that match is.
They're going to do what they can to make Omos look good, though, and I don't know how. I guess the Bray Wyatt-Bobby Lashley match, they're not really sure what's going to happen there because I don't know if Bray Wyatt will be able to compete.
Yeah,
we'll have to wait and see.
That's a weird situation too.
Now the Roman Reigns and the Roman Reigns stuff with Tattoo Neck guy with Cody Rhodes.
Cody Rhodes.
I don't know. I'm right now. I'm in the camp where I kind of want Roman to beat him.
I do too.
I know that's not a popular opinion, but I want it to happen.
I want Roman to break that record, that title-holding record, because no one's ever going to come close to that again, and that to me is cooler than... You can put the belt on...
I know Roman has to go and do some movies, but that can hold off a little bit.
Yeah, you can put the belt on Cody at any time. It don't matter.
But you can check out my work over on the Viking Age. I'll have an article over there in the morning. I believe it was going to be discussing today's events in free agency, but today was very, very quiet. So with nothing going on there, I believe I'm going to be talking about the NFC quarterbacks in my next piece. So that should be some fun, the NFC North quarterbacks. You can check me out on Instagram where there's a lot of pictures of now there should be one cat, Bernie, who I officially adopted. And you probably see me a lot clearer these days because I am on a new PC.
Yeah.
There you
I
go.
still have
Adam.
the same satellite internet, so that's not going to be wonderful. But it's better than the DSL that I had before, where the speeds were just terrible. So I'm doing what I can here. But you can catch me on the TikToks, on the Twitter. Come have talks with me, and we'll figure out what's going on. I will also probably try streaming a little bit more over on Twitch, which is a place where this show live streams along with Facebook and YouTube. I see that we got some Facebook people in here as well as YouTube people, which is always cool. I like when people check us out on different platforms. It means that we're good. And we were also number 1 again last week on Podomatic. So thanks again for those who checked us out on Podomatic or places that use Podomatic to stream the podcast. It means that people are listening, which sometimes surprises me. I forget about that.
Kyle West, stalk him here.
You can follow my stuff. I don't feel like plugging anything, but I'm going to make a bold prediction for you guys. For a free agent bold prediction. I'm not going to say it out loud, so sorry for the people listening at home. I'm just going to hold it up and say future Minnesota Viking. Right there.
You know what? I wouldn't hate that, man. I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't be overjoyed. I would be indifferent. But you know what?
I will ruin for the people listening at home. That man is on Aaron Rodgers' wish list, so that ain't happening.
I will say
him and Justin Jefferson are best friends, though.
So. The word would for the season, the predictable word before anything happens on the field would be fun.
Yeah,
it would be fun. So
yes,
I wouldn't hate it. We'll see what happens there.
It'd be chaos. And
yeah, for sure.
Like let's take a little chaos.
They'd both demand a trade because Kirk Cousins sucks.
Yeah.
So you can find Kyle West's photography and the store for the Purple People podcast here at this link. We never say it, so I'll say it out loud. https://Kyle West 84, like Randy Moss, pickfair.com. You can check out his photography, which Adam and I both will gush over and tell you is wonderful because it is. And you can get those photographs.
There's fun nature stuff. There's some creepy stuff as well, which is kind of neat. It's a nice variety. I like a lot of it.
We appreciate your work there, man. Keep it going. This is my Instagram and Twitter and TikTok and all that fun jazz. You can find me there. I'm most active on Instagram. Secondly, on Twitter. Very rarely on the talk, but I am going to post some stuff tonight on Instagram. I will be playing St. Patty's Day the day after, which would be Saturday, the 18th this week. I will be playing 2 shows here around the Charlotte area, 12 to 2 at Peter Wheel in Gastonia, North Carolina. I'm very excited to be a part of their St. Patrick's Day bash for the weekend. And then I'm going to have a nice little break to go home and rest my voice and fingers. And then I'll go back 7 to 10, Kings Mountain, North Carolina, my hometown, to play at Trackside Bourbon, Beer, and Vinyl. I'm excited to be back there. And
Are you going to play Oh Danny Boy?
I am not. I'm sorry. I will try to find a fun Irish tune for that day. Maybe I'll just find it. And yeah, Wonderwall and Freebird.
Compared to you, it's Prince too, so that works double.
Wonderwall and Freebird on repeat now for 3 hours. I have added quite a few songs. I've added 5 or 6 new songs to the set, and I'll be playing those this weekend. So, an old country favorite, but a lot of 90s stuff. I'm really getting in I've got a full alternative 90s set that I'm very fun. That's my favorite thing to play. So you may hear a Bush song added to that list. You may hear some Matchbox 20, some old Green Day, stuff like that, but it'll be a very, very fun time. But enough about me. Let's end this show and say thank you to everyone who commented. We will be back next week. Shout out to all of you for making this show possible. And Adam Carlson's going to sign us off.
Absolutely. Stay classy, Minnesota.